man named Bill was excited and nervous about the birth of his first child. They had done all their planning, they had gotten the suitcase ready and had it by the door, but when the day came, like most men, he kind of panicked a little bit, ran around trying to find things, but eventually got his wife Betty into the car and they headed for the hospital. When they got to the hospital, Betty was in quite severe labor and saying, hurry up, hurry up. And they got to in front of the hospital, they drove right past the admitting entrance. And Betty, understandably upset and in a hurry, said, "What are you doing? You're going the wrong way." He said, "No." He says, "I know what I'm doing." She said, "What are you talking about?" "I saw a sign. It said, 'Deliveries in the rear.'" Sometimes I think we have a tendency to hide exciting things in the back, to go around and try and keep it to ourselves, to not share the excitement about things we care about. I invite you, if you ever want a lesson on how to share your excitement, I invite you to come watch my wife watch football. That's a lesson in excitement, I'm telling you. This is a lady that gets into the game. When Debbie watches football, she's not even on the couch anymore. There's jumping up and down, there's criticism of the referees when they make a bad call, there's shouts of joy when her team scores. Sometimes she cheers for both teams, it really confuses me. You really get to know when Debbie's excited. And some of you know what I'm talking about, even not just football, but most things. If Debbie's excited about it, you're going to know it, right? Then there's my son, when he plays video games. He's really good at getting excited when he's playing video games, and his whole body gets into the experience. He doesn't say a lot. Once in a while he gets mad when something doesn't work the way he wants, but most of the time it's just his whole body. So if it's a racing game, he's doing this, right? Looking at the screen, right? He gets really excited about the games, and when he wins, boy, he'll come and say, "Dad, you got to see me do this," and he'll do it again, just to show me that he's won, right? Now, other people get excited in different ways. My daughter and I don't tend to be quite as out there with our excitement. We tend to be a little bit more internal, and what we love to do is not football or even video games as much, but we love to read. And when we read, we get right into a book, and so you might hear me sometimes laugh right out loud if something's funny in a book, or you might actually see a tear in our eyes if something's really meaningful in a story. But we're really excited when you try and talk to us when we're reading a book and we just don't hear you. Different people get excited in different ways. But excitement is something that's part of the human experience, and it's not something we should hide or need to hide. We don't have to go around back. Jesus' entry into Jerusalem was not hidden, was it? I mean, as it were, they rolled out the red carpet for Jesus. When he approached the city, they heard he was coming, the crowds gathered, they laid down their cloaks, they laid down their palm branches, and everybody was shouting, "Jesus is coming!" And there were some folks in the crowd even that were saying, "Who is this?" And so they told them, "Jesus is coming." They told them who he was. They told them the kind of things he'd done, what they had heard. It was an amazing, exciting event. And people gathered together to shout out loud when they saw him. Now, I know, not all excitement is a good thing. And I understand, I was raised Baptist, I get this, that most of us were taught, in church, you got to be quiet, you got to be calm, you got to be cool. You may be excited on the inside, but, be very careful. Unless you're Black Baptist, then you shout amen all the time. But other than that, right? But at this particular event, people saw a need to shout. Why do we always talk about Palm Sunday? I mean, really, what is the big deal? Could you imagine, last year we had, and every year we have in Old Home Week, we have a parade, right? Could you imagine us getting up here and celebrating a year later the Old Home Week parade from last year? Right? I mean, does that make any sense? Probably not. And really what we're talking about, this triumphal entry, this Palm Sunday event, is a parade of sorts. And yet we remember it. The Gospel writers felt it was so important that all four Gospels include the account of Jesus entering Jerusalem. And I think we need to understand it really says something about who Jesus was, because it was he that said, "Greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends." And Jesus was going to Jerusalem to do exactly that, to lay down his life for his friends, for those who are around him, for those common people in the crowd. He was going, and yet he celebrates with those who are there. Now we know that some people were shouting just because they'd heard about this Jesus guy, kind of like what we see so often nowadays. You hear my reputation about somebody, and you say, "Oh, that's exciting. Somebody famous is coming to town." Like Debbie talked about her story, right? Queen Elizabeth is going to be here, or Billy Graham's going to be here. People get excited because somebody famous, somebody well-known is coming, right? Some people were shouting because of that. Some people were shouting, though, because they actually knew Jesus. Some of the folks in the crowd were his disciples. They walked with him. They talked with him. They spent time with him. Some were shouting because they'd been there when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. And they wanted people to hear about this amazing man. And some were not shouting at all. I want to look at these people in the crowd this morning. Explore who they are and why they were shouting. What was all the shouting about? What is all the shouting for? We start by saying again, some were shouting because of Jesus' reputation. And look at it. It says they heard, verse 12, "The next day the great crowd that had come for the feast heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting." They were excited. I'm sure that there were people in the crowd that didn't even know why they were excited. Have you ever been to a conference or something where there was a famous speaker coming? And you know what always happens before a famous speaker comes out? Is some guy or gal gets up to the front and says, "I want to introduce our speaker for today," right? You may have never heard of them, you may have never heard of them, but he comes up and says, "You got to come listen," for example, one of my favorite authors, "You got to come listen to Philip Yancey. Philip has studied at this university, and he's got his bachelor's degree and his master's degree and his doctorate. And Philip has written 14 books, and Philip is a great speaker. You got to listen to Philip," right? That's what we do. We introduce them, and so people go, what was the person doing the introduction say then? He says, "Okay, everybody put your hands together for Philip," right? And I'll come Philip to applaud. And we're clapping. We don't even know why. Right? We're clapping just because we've heard from somebody else that this is a good person, and we should listen to them. Right? Some were shouting because of Jesus' reputation. The famous Jesus is coming to town. The one who did the healing. The one who fed so many people. The one who even raised the dead guy back to life. I mean, if it were nowadays, it would be on YouTube and it would say Jesus had gone viral. Jesus is coming to town. And this crowd of common people says, "We're going to go out to meet him." They didn't wait for him to get into the city. They go out to meet him on the road. You need to understand that at this point, they've all gathered for a religious feast known as the Passover. They've all gathered to celebrate and remember what God did to free his people from Egypt so many years before. They've gathered for this religious celebration, and yet they went out against the wishes of the religious leaders of the day to see this famous man Jesus, this radical, this revolutionary. They go out to meet him, and what do they shout? They shout, "Hosanna!" And we sing that in so many songs, and generally we don't have a clue what we even mean when we say it. Hosanna means save now. But the way they say it, and the meaning, the true meaning of the word, is that of somebody that's on their knees, reaching out and grabbing the cloak of somebody strong and powerful and saying, begging, "Save me now. You're the only one who can." They were putting all their hope in this famous person they'd heard about. If he could feed people, if he could heal people, if he could raise people from the dead, then they would put their trust in him. And so they begged him, "Hosanna! Save me now! Save me from my situation. Save me from my problems. Save me even from my government under the rule of Rome at the time." They rolled out the red carpet for this famous, powerful person, hoping that he could do for them what they wanted. And this is an important distinction. When they say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," verse 13, "Blessed is the King of Israel," they are affirming that Jesus is from God, but they are also saying, "We want you to be a king that conquers, a king that gives us success, a king who sets us free from the problems of this world."